Hey, everybody. Welcome back to No More, No Less. I'm your host, Michael Chakeen, and today in the virtual studio, I have with me David Wilcox. David is the former bodyguard for Pat Robertson, the longtime host of the 700 Club. In David's first book, Protecting Pat Robertson, Confessions of a High-Priced Bagman, he shares his experience of what it was like during those years, trying to keep one of America's most controversial figures alive. David also discusses the secrets behind Pat Robertson's Christian broadcast network. In his second book, The Trial of the Devil Incarnate, he exposes the scandalous truth about Ralph Reed, the former executive director of Pat Robertson's Christian Coalition. He documents the shameful acts about the man the Huffington Post labeled as one of the most monumental hypocrites of our time. This already sounds so juicy. David Wilcox, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure.
So I guess let's start right from the beginning. How did you end up being the bodyguard for such a, as you were saying before, like an enigmatic figure that people were looking for more spiritual guidance, etc.?
Well, I was born and raised out in Southern California, a town called Oceanside, kind of midway between LA and San Diego. And my first real job was to be a police officer in my hometown. And unfortunately, I got injured after about 5 years and medically retired, and was dating a woman who I was soon to marry. And she always wanted to come back east and be a reporter for the 700 Club TV show. And I was recently retired and didn't know what to do with the rest of my life. So I said, yeah, let's go. So we were married, and we drove back to Virginia Beach, Virginia. And we enrolled in the grad school there. It's now Regent University. Back then it was called CBN University. And being a new husband, wanting to be a good provider, I stopped by student services. I said, hey, I'm going to grad school. I want to get a job. Can you help me? And they looked at my resume and they said, oh, well, you've got police background experience. I said, yeah. And they said, well, wow. The founder of CBN, Pat Robertson, is getting ready to make a run for president of the United States in a couple of years. And he's looking for bodyguards. And I said, oh, great. And they said, well, would you be interested in that? And I said, well, two questions. What does it pay? And when do I start?
Right.
And I thought, man, that's got to be easy work, And so within a few weeks, I was hired, and it was a very dichotomous existence. I would go to grad school, mainly in the evenings. They're like 4-hour classes at night. And then come Friday, Pat would get on a plane, the company plane, and we would fly off, and I'd be with him and spend the entire weekend. We'd do maybe 24 events, pre-official announcement of his candidacy. It was under his political action committee.
Right. What year was this?
Do the bodyguard thing. We'd fly back to Virginia Beach Sunday night, and the next day I'd be back in grad school. So,
wow. And around what time was this? What year was this?
I started grad school in 1985. Pat was starting to ramp up his political ambitions about that time. He started the Christian Coalition about 86. And then the whole thing, the book really is a transitional thing because it tells a lot of funny anecdotal stories about Pat being with him. And then comes a dividing point, a fork in the road, where he made the decision to go after the presidency. And it just had devastating effects on the ministry and everybody around him.
Well, because it makes sense how you're saying you joined up with Pat in 85, because so even growing up in Canada, I remember as a kid, if I was like 11 or 12, just flicking around the TV, I remember seeing the 700 Club a lot, even up in Canada. I remember knowing that, okay, this is the guy that gives a weird mass on TV every Sunday, and having this idea of this person. Like, it's not something I ever watched, but I definitely had an awareness of him.